New York City never sleeps, but some of its buildings, they hold secrets best left undisturbed. When I got a job as a night cleaner in a high-rise downtown, I thought it'd be easy money. Just me, an empty building, and a mop. But on my first night, I learned the truth. This wasn't an ordinary job. The rules they gave me weren't just strange, they were terrifying. And breaking them? Let's just say, I found out the hard way why you should always follow them to the letter. It started with a simple job listing. Night cleaner needed. No experience required. $25 per hour. As someone desperate for cash, it sounded perfect. The address led me to a sleek skyscraper in Manhattan, towering above the bustling streets. Inside, I was greeted by Mr. Crawley, a wiry man in a sharp gray suit. His face was pale, his smile thin and forced, like he wasn't used to it. He handed me a clipboard with a list of rules, his tone serious as he said, "Read these carefully. Your job depends on it." The rules were typed in neat, bold letters, but as I read them, a cold knot formed in my stomach. Always start on the 14th floor, no matter where you finished the previous shift. If you see a woman in red, do not speak to her. The office with the cracked door on the 9th floor must remain locked. If it's open, leave immediately and call me. The elevators are off limits between 2 o'clock and 2:15 a.m. Take the stairs. If you hear footsteps behind you but see no one, keep moving. Do not turn around. At exactly 3:33 a.m., sit down wherever you are and close your eyes for 1 minute. No matter what you hear, do not open them until the time is up. I laughed nervously, thinking it was some kind of weird hazing ritual. But Mr. Crawley's expression didn't change. "Break a rule," he said flatly, "and you'll wish you hadn't." My first shift began quietly enough. The 14th floor was just another empty office space, cubicles, desks, and a faint smell of stale coffee. I plugged in my earbuds and got to work, wiping down desks and vacuuming carpets. Around 1 a.m., I moved to the 9th floor. As I passed the office with the cracked door, I felt a chill run down my spine. Something about it felt wrong. The door was locked, just as it should be, but I couldn't shake the feeling that someone or something was on the other side, watching me. By 2 a.m., I was on the 7th floor, cleaning a conference room. My phone buzzed, and I glanced at the time. 2:10 a.m. Suddenly, the hairs on my neck stood up. I heard the faint hum of the elevator in the distance, even though I knew it was supposed to be off limits. A soft ding echoed through the hall, followed by the sound of heavy, deliberate footsteps. My heart raced as I remembered Rule 5. I stayed frozen, my mop handle gripped tightly in my hands. The footsteps grew louder, stopping just outside the door. I didn't turn around. I didn't breathe. Eventually, the sound faded, and I collapsed into a chair, shaking. By my second week, I'd started to piece together patterns, strange things that happened around certain times on certain floors. One night, while mopping the 12th floor, I glanced up and saw her, the woman in red. She stood at the end of the hallway, her back to me. Her dress was long and flowing, and her hair fell in dark waves over her shoulders. "Ma'am?" I called instinctively. My voice echoed in the empty hall. She turned slowly, her face pale and gaunt, her eyes hollow and black. My breath hitched as she took a step forward, her lips curling into a sharp, unnatural smile. I dropped the mop and bolted for the stairs, her laughter, low and guttural, chasing me down the stairwell. I didn't stop running until I reached the lobby, where Mr. Crawley was waiting, his face grim. "You spoke to her," he said. It wasn't a question. The following night, something had changed. The building felt heavier, darker. Lights flickered erratically, and the usual hum of the air conditioning was replaced by an oppressive silence. At 3:33 a.m., I remembered Rule 6. I sat on the floor of the 11th floor break room, my heart pounding. The minute felt endless. Every second stretched into eternity. And then I heard it, whispers. They started softly, growing louder until it felt like they were right in my ear. A mix of voices, men, women, even children, speaking in languages I couldn't understand. My hands shook as I clenched my eyes shut, resisting the overwhelming urge to look. The whispers turned into screams, high-pitched and bone-chilling. Finally, the alarm on my phone beeped. 3:34 a.m. The sound stopped abruptly, leaving behind an eerie stillness. As the weeks went on, I grew more paranoid. The building seemed alive, its shadows deeper, its corners darker. I began to see figures out of the corner of my eye, shapes that disappeared the moment I turned to face them. One night, while cleaning the 14th floor, I heard a faint tapping sound. It was coming from the window. I hesitated, then walked over, expecting to see a bird or a branch. But instead, I saw a face pressed against the glass, pale, with hollow eyes and a mouth twisted into a silent scream. I stumbled back, my heart racing, but when I looked again, it was gone. The final straw came 2 nights later. I had just finished the 9th floor when I noticed something strange. The office with the cracked door was slightly ajar. My stomach dropped as I remembered Rule 3. I backed away slowly, reaching for my phone to call Mr. Crawley. But before I could dial, a low growl echoed from inside the room. The door creaked open wider, and a dark figure emerged, tall, with elongated limbs and glowing red eyes. It moved toward me, its body contorting unnaturally, its movements jerky and inhuman. I ran for the stairs, but the figure followed, its growls turning into distorted, guttural laughter. I burst into the lobby, gasping for air, only to find Mr. Crawley waiting once again, his face expressionless. "You've seen too much," he said quietly. That was my last night as a cleaner. I quit the next day, but the memories haunt me still. Sometimes, I dream of the building, its endless halls, its flickering lights, and the rules that I broke. I don't know what was in that office, or why the rules existed. But I know one thing. That building isn't just a workplace. It's a trap, a place where something ancient and malevolent waits for those foolish enough to ignore the warnings. So, if you ever see a job listing for a night cleaner in NYC, think twice. Because some buildings, they clean more than just dirt.